fortunes of a family of barn owls. This year we had high hopes of filming them again, when our cameras revealed our barn owl family was still here. With a special license granted, we checked the nest, and it revealed a solitary egg had been laid. So our cameras were deployed to record the enigmatic pair's life outside the barn, witnessing the owls' various visitations and nocturnal movements. As the weeks went by, we saw an increase of the owls' activity. Had their egg possibly hatched? Our licensed team returned to discover 5 eggs. The barn won't reverberate with the sound of young barn owls, though, until mid-June. But the barn plays host to more than just owls. As dawn rises, other birds and many mammals venture around the building. A pair of rabbits graze the grass. Usually they live in groups, but this pair of youngsters appear to be living away from the safety of a warren. Barn living could suit this pair of rabbits. It offers protection and warmth. But to try and discover more about this couple's habits, our remote camera is moved to a more rabbit-friendly height. So what more will this camera reveal about the lone rabbits of the barn?
You know what, I'm worried. I'm worried about those rabbits. Because surely rabbits are a social animal, they should be in a group. I think, and it does happen, that they've been kicked out of the group. Often the dominant female will kick them out. And I think that might be a sub-dominant female with her youngster. And they're in great danger out there.
What? Are they social outcasts?
I think they're social.
Aww.
I think they are. And I think they haven't got lots of other rabbits to warn them of danger and so on. So I think keep an eye on them. I'm worried.
Well, you couldn't have painted a bleaker picture of our rabbit's future. Let's think on the up here. Although they're about 3 weeks late this year, those 5 barn owl eggs are probably in a good place to be, because the summer's improving now, the adults will find more food. Over the winter they didn't. There was a much higher than normal barn owl mortality this winter. But it's not so much about the weather for these things, it's about the abundance of their food bowl. So although they won't hatch in time for us to see them, I think they'll probably make it.
Well, we'll certainly be keeping an eye on our live barn cam, but let's see what's happening on our live cameras with the other birds that we've got.
Our meadow pickets. Let's go to our meadow pickets. Open habitat. The nest is very well hidden down on the ground. The youngsters have been down there and got their mouths open. Maybe it's a bit warm in there, because they have been out in the sun and they've been gaping all day. Obviously birds can't sweat, so to stay cool under heat, they have to gape and lose any heat through their mouths. No, they've closed their mouths now. They're just having a little preen, getting rid of that down. And remember, these are on the ground, so there's a good chance that they'll fledge quite early. They can fledge after just 10 or 12 days, although they won't fly for much longer than that.
Right, I'm going to stick my neck out now. I've already done it. Let's talk about the water owl. Now, I suggested that the eggs were about to hatch. What was it, a couple of days ago?
2 weeks ago.
Yeah, about 2 weeks ago. They are about to hatch, I'm sure. Let's go live to the water owl nest. Now, we've been watching it very carefully. They haven't actually hatched, but they have crazed. They haven't picked yet. We haven't seen a little hole in them. But there's this sort of mosaic appearing on their surface. So, once again, I think they're just about to hatch out. Okay, 50p?
I'll tell more than that.
Oh, 50p. Let's go now to our stone chat nest. They're very different. I think there was a little bit of movement there. Oh, there it is, yes.
Beneath the feather.
Beneath the feather. They're quite difficult to get. They're sort of hunkered down all the time in that nest. And we've just earlier we've seen the adults coming in and feeding, but he and she aren't there right now.
I think because there are fewer young, they haven't sort of flattened that nest out. You know the meadow pickets?
Yes.
Because there were so many in there, they've sort of pushed it and flattened it down so we can see them more clearly, because initially they were quite well hidden. Perhaps as they grow, we might get better views of them.
All quiet, but they look okay. Good news.
Should we see if anything's on our marsh cam? Let's have a look.
Oh, we've got a couple of swans.
Ah.
Always makes a pretty picture. In fact, our marsh cam always gives us such gorgeous shots. And over the last few days, we've been seeing a lot of the heron. We featured on little heron yesterday. But it's important to remember that the heron is a superb hunter and would go for some of the other ground nesting birds that we're featuring. In fact, they face a lot of threats with predators, anything from the heron to birds of prey to mink to weasels. And in fact, some of the birds that we featured earlier on last week, the dunnocks, did get predated on by a weasel. And in fact, the weasel didn't just take one chick, it took the whole lot. But it's important to remember that that weasel has a family of its own, it has to feed its young, and that's the circle of life.
Yes, weasels. How big are they? Well, this morning, one of our cameramen was out filming something quite different and saw this. A weasel coming out, rushing in. Now, what we think's happening is the weasel comes out. It's probably a path it uses every day. It notices the cameraman's there and disappears back. Probably smells him. Wants to traverse and go out hunting, but doesn't want to be out in the open for too long. But there it is. Naughtiness in animal form. Most wonderful little creatures. See? And of course, small enough to be able to run down a mouse or a vole hole, because that's how they hunt. So they are really, really tiny little creatures.
You've got a good picture there,
Oh,
Cecil.
sure. Thanks for reminding me, Michaela. Off asleep today. Look at this wonderful picture. Can you see that? This picture's come in from Ron Cope, weasel in a great tip box. And yesterday we were talking about how you could protect your box from woodpeckers by putting a plate on, but unfortunately if you've got a weasel, it ain't going to work.
There he is, look, the equaliser, balancing out predator and prey. And a lot of people think that weasels are ground predators, but in fact studies where they've been looking at birds using nest box find that weasels are a principal predator there. They will go up the trees, I'm sure, when they hear those birds, and then empty the nest box just as we saw them finish off our dunnocks. But of course it's not just mammalian predators here. Just this morning, in the compost heap in the garden just behind us here, our cameramen found some grass snakes emerging. Now the compost heap is obviously decomposing, generating heat, so it's a perfect place to be a reptile, but that's not the only reason that these snakes would have come here. It's likely that they're females and they've come here to lay their eggs. It's that time of year, and they'll lay them in a clump very deep in the compost, up to 20 or 30 eggs, in a sort of a leathery, soft shell, which will hatch out in the end of August, at the end of August. But look at this, they're in perfect condition. So glossy, so shiny. Shiny as a brand new Cadillac. Look at that. Gorgeous things. I love grass snakes. I really do. One of my favourite animals.
Ever seen them hatch out, Chris?
No, I
That was my
found...
dream. You found little baby grass?
Yeah, they're like little pencils. Beautiful. Beautiful.
Now, Springwatch is and always has been a celebration of the UK's wildlife, wherever it's found. We sent cameraman Richard Taylor-Jones out to find wildlife inspiration in a location which, on face value, could appear rather desolate.
I've never been here before. Orford Ness, the most eastern edge